Hello everybody.
Hi.
It's Julia here from Central Coast Doula.
And I'm Lauren from Singingbird Yoga and Birth Support on Central Coast. Yeah. So we thought we'd start doing some videos together to
Join forces.
to share our knowledge and
get some good information out there. Share what we feel is important or useful during your pregnancy and birth journeys.
And postpartum as well, preparing for that that side of things that we often neglect.
Yes, definitely.
So
and we thought for today we start with the topic of birth plans. Some call them birth preferences,
birth intentions, birth wishes.
There are many names for it, but really it doesn't really matter what you call them. What is important is that you have some and that they reflect what is important to you.
And that it's a tool to help you discuss things with your partner about things that you're hoping for in birth, things that you may be scared of or avoiding perhaps, or not wanting to maybe look into.
Yes. Also good to discuss with your care provider to give them, I guess, a sense of your hopes or your expectations. And I think it also communicates to care providers that you are knowledgeable, that you've informed yourself, that you're not going to be necessarily, well, I don't think a pushover is a good word, but you know, that you need to be consulted before things are decided because you know your stuff.
And I think it also gives you an idea of things that you're unsure of. So it can be a little portal or an open sort of door to exploring different procedures and different birth outcomes as well, because we often can get fixated on certain types of birth, and birth sort of always shows you the unexpected. So I think it's important to be educated on lots of different things so that you can prepare for those things.
I think you've touched on a really important point there, because that's basically that's the process of putting your birth plan or preferences together is what really is empowering you, because it shows you the things that you're comfortable with, that you maybe even are scared of, but it also means that you're informing yourself of what could be involved, what the options are in a situation where you may be heading down a road that you hadn't initially anticipated. And I think that's what really, the process of putting a birth plan together is where the true power lies.
Rather than not doing it because you're just going to go with the flow. Sometimes that can be dangerous to just, not dangerous, maybe that's the wrong word, but like to go with the flow depends on what you mean by that. Do you mean your flow and how your instincts and your intuition and from your educated perspective, or do you mean somebody else's flow? Are you listening to your baby? Are you using your intuition? Are you using that great brain acronym, which is all about finding the benefits, the risks, the alternatives, your intuition? What if you do nothing? That's the most what's the word I'm in? Most often, can I say that? Is that a sentence?
Yes.
Thing I hear from women who are unsure about whether to do a birth plan is worry that it's not going to turn out how it says on the piece of paper.
Well, and I think that's a really important thing to acknowledge beforehand, that the point of having a birth plan or birth preference is not that your birth has to go exactly how you've written it down. Very rarely it will be. I think based on my experience, and I don't know how you feel about it, but most births play out differently to how we expect. Almost all births have unexpected roadblocks or challenges.
Twists and turns.
Yes, twists and turns.
Detours.
If you are approaching birth from a going with the flow approach, then you can very quickly find yourself in a situation when something doesn't quite happen how you have thought it would. You have to give away your power, because then the only option you really still have is to look at your care provider and say, okay, well, you please do what you think is best. But that is often what leaves women and also partners actually in that situation feeling quite powerless and to become more of a the passenger in
Yeah.
the whole experience,
Yeah.
rather than still knowing what your options are, because you've thought about it beforehand, and you also know what you would be most comfortable with if in each scenario.
Yeah.
So I think that's
That's
beauty
the
of why, you know, I'm very passionate about putting birth preferences together
Yeah.
and having them on board.
Yeah.
Did you have birth? Well, I assume you had a birth plan or birth preferences for your births, but do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I had a birth plan for my first birth, and I was very much about the non-cesarean route. I didn't want a cesarean. In fact, I didn't read that part of the book about cesareans. And I wrote a birth plan that was very much about a natural birth. Had a lot of wording in it, like no episiotomy, no induction, no. And what I've learned is that words are spells, or they can be magic. So sometimes by saying no all the time to these things, it can bring it closer towards us. And I had a cesarean birth the first time, which I think was a lot to do with, you know, a lot of my fears that I had. And so that birth plan sort of showed me a lot about myself, actually, and which in hindsight was quite powerful. But my second birth was a planned home birth, and my birth plan second time round was all about preparing for a transfer, or preparing for a cesarean, preparing for all sorts of different outcomes, so that I was my expectations weren't so high, I guess. In a way, it was more about alleviating the suffering of expectation for me, and trying to find peace, or maybe compassion, I guess, more for myself, in that knowing that labour is very challenging and very intense, and at certain
different outcomes and different routes.
Yeah, and the different parts in your birth, different points in your birth, maybe there are things that you do need to do to help you feel more at ease too. And when we do these things from compassion for ourselves, and to realise how incredibly powerful and strong we are, that taking these different detours can be, you know, and when they're done with your from your decision, make a decision from an educated perspective, that there's much more power in that.
Yeah.
You know, whatever sort of outcome happens. So I feel the second time around making the birth plan with more an open mind and an open heart was much more. It was better for my preparation and stuff. Yeah.
And where did you find the information that you put into your birth plan? Like how did you approach the whole process?
Well, I did have templates from my doula and from when I studied as a doula. You can find some online, I think. There's some online birth plans, but I guess in terms of finding the information, I mean, we've got the internet, which has some amazing resources, and there's some amazing books that I read, like Spiritual Midwifery by Ina May Gaskin, and Birthing from Within has some fantastic resources. And what other books do you like? Active Birth was another great one. Janet Velasquez.
I did read Birthing from Within for my second pregnancy. Personally, I do also like Birth Skills by Juju Sundin. Not so much in the terms of I think that's more in terms of preparing myself or preparing women, you know, to equip themselves with pain coping techniques, and have lots of eggs in the basket to take from and to use. But I think what you've, you know, highlighted is that it's always good to have a variety of sources when you put your birth preferences together. Not just to go by maybe what your care provider tells you, and not just go by what your doula tells you. I think what is really important is that they are yours. Yeah. You know, whatever you put in there, they need to be your choices. They need to reflect, you know, what you feel most comfortable with. And so, I mean, one of the things that I do with my doula clients is that I really take them through each stage of labour, what you can expect to happen, you know, whether it's vaginal exams, and also looking at the options around vaginal exams, monitoring. What options do you have around your baby being monitored? What typical procedures or protocols will you need to encounter? And also what possible interventions could happen during each stage of labour. So really
or
looking
even
at
beforehand as well.
Or beforehand,
from 37
absolutely.
weeks. What could happen if your waters break at 38 weeks and there's no
Yes.
labour, or what if, you know, you're 42 weeks, what happens then? Those sort of
Yes.
plans I think are good to have in your mind about what
Yes.
sort of options there are.
Yes, definitely. Having a really quite a holistic idea and knowledge. You know, knowledge is power when it comes to giving birth.
Yeah.
I guess, I try and do that so that women and their partners can make a call for themselves what they feel in each situation would be their choice. And as part of that, I think you totally should put together some separate preferences together if a cesarean birth becomes a reality. I always now discuss cesarean births in quite some detail with clients, because they are a reality of giving birth. And as and when it happens, you still want to know that you've got options, and that can make a true difference to how you feel as and when it happens.
And when you have looked at cesarean birth and you have I guess in a way gone beyond just the medical side of it, you know, you've written down some things that you would like to do, like for example, you know, some women can have the sheet lowered to see their baby emerge, or have the baby straight to the chest whilst you're being sewed up. Those sorts of things. Beyond those medical preferences is also a way to I guess touch on the idea of the cesarean birth being just another birth.
Yes.
It's still a sacred experience, a rite of passage, and making time to find out, to celebrate it, and to find out how you want to feel in that birth too. You know, what things you want in the same way that you might have felt for a vaginal birth.
Yes.
What sort of things do you want? Music? Do you want everyone to be quiet? What sort of things?
How do you picture it?
How do you and when we start to look at birth in a different way, you know, beyond the medical side of things and going a little bit deeper underneath the surface to it being to the emotional side, to the spiritual side, we, you know, connect with birth on another level. You know, it's actually not being done to us, it's coming from us.
That's right.
So I think coming at it at all angles, which you know, being pregnant is completely overwhelming at times, you know, and then you've got all these other ways to prepare for birth, and then you're thinking about practical stuff on the other side, you know, after you've had your baby, and physical things, and how you're going to breastfeed. It's a real huge experience.
I think you've just summarised it beautifully by saying, you know, it's not done to us, but it means, you know, it's coming from us, and really a lot of power lies in that statement, and it's not just for your birth, but also your start into motherhood. Okay. Should we leave it at that?
Yeah, I think that was perfect.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this or found it useful as much as we enjoyed just sitting here in this beautiful place and getting together. North of Oka. And we hope you have a beautiful rest of the day, and I'm sure we'll do this again.
And you can check out our websites. Maybe we could look into some kind of
posting the video on our website.
Yes, we will do that.
Okay.
But also just a refresh of the tips that we had.
Yes, just summarize it afterwards.
How to make a birth plan in some kind of loose way.
That's a good idea.
Yes.
Let's do
We'll do that. We'll share that. So put that in our notes section of our on our Facebook page or something.
Yes, we'll definitely
look out for that.
Okay. All right. Thanks for joining us, and see you again soon.
Yeah, we'll do some more of these, I'm sure.
Bye.
Share it around. I just do that. Share it around. There had to be some laughs in there. Share it around with your friends and any women that you feel that might need this.
That might need to hear this.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
See you.
Bye.